Hey guys, welcome to the Dreams Guy podcast. My name is John Thomas. We are having a dream internship while we're doing this recording. Obviously, when you're listening to it, it's already over, but we'll be having another one. And Katrina is here for that. And Katrina has a dream. So Katrina, why don't you share your dream with us?
Okay, so I was with a group of people and it included 2 leaders from my church. And we were walking through kind of a wilderness, like a grassy, woodsy area, like a hike almost. And I just knew we were going on a journey. And so we're going, and then we finally reach this clearing, like an opening that didn't have trees in it, but it still had lots of like wild vegetation. So like long grasses, especially, that's what I remember. But in the middle of the field was an airplane. And it was on the ground, and it was clear that it had been there for like a really long time, or a long time anyways. And it was like at some point someone had used it. I just got the sense that they had abandoned it, and then we were actually supposed to use it. So that's just the sense that I got. And so we reached this place, and there's like other people that had gotten there before us. But so we were like joining their team. And so we join them, we go kind of up to the airplane, and I saw that what they were doing, and then the people I was with, what they were doing, was putting chairs into this plane. So it was like the plane had everything that was supposed to be in it was cleared out. So it was empty inside, but people were putting chairs. They were like unusual, not plain chairs, like living room chairs, or like just weird design chairs, like maybe lounge chairs and things like that. But where they were getting the chairs was actually from the field. So they were scattered like through the whole field. And they were kind of hidden in the grasses. And so what we were doing, or what other people were doing, and what I was doing also, was like going through the field and looking for these chairs. So at one point, I'm back at the plane, and I see the situation where there's like, they're lining up the chairs against the side of the plane. So they're not even facing forward normally. And there's just like one spot, and it's like kind of unusual, like an unusually shaped spot. And there's like all these restrictions on it. It's like on the top, on the sides, like there were a lot of things that made it so you needed just like a really specific something to go in there. And there was an option of a certain chair that someone was like suggesting, oh, maybe this chair could fit there. And everyone was like, oh, I don't think so. Like, probably not. That's like, whatever. And so then they try it, and it's like perfect. And so it's like, it fits like a puzzle piece. And then the next thing was, I remember kind of, stepping away from the plane. And I specifically was on my way to look for a chair, and I found this one, and it was like a lounge chair kind of, and it had silver armrests, and it was kind of like brushed silver, kind of dull, not super shiny, but I was expecting it to be really heavy because it was metal. At least the armrests were metal, but I lifted it up and it was like really light. And I was like, oh, cool, I could lift it. And then someone comes over and they're kind of helping me carry it over to the plane. And the idea was apparently to like then put it onto the plane. And that was it.
Okay. And that's the whole dream.
That's it.
All right. Let's see if we can remember this. So you are with a couple leaders from the church that you're going to, and you're walking through kind of this wilderness, outdoorsy area on this journey. And on your journey, you come to this clearing, which is kind of like your destination. Lots of grasses, and there's vegetation, but it's not the trees, forest area anymore. And in the center of this clearing, there's this plane that somebody had used for an adventure previously, but it had been left there for a very long time. And you knew that you guys were going to be going and using that plane, that was the plane you needed to use. As you get there, you notice that there's other people, other groups that are also in the same place, and you're joining together, working together to get this plane ready to go. And the inside of it has been stripped, like none of the normal things that would be in it. And so everybody's getting chairs. And scattered around this clearing, there are chairs of all kinds of different types, not airplane chairs, but like lounge chairs and sofa type chairs, that kind of thing. And everybody's putting them on in different places, but not how you would normally think facing forward. They're just against the wall, kind of facing towards the center instead. And there's one particular area that had a bunch of different restrictions, different things above, around, and it didn't look like anything was going to fit in there. And some people were talking about one chair. Maybe this would fit. Maybe it won't fit. I don't know if it'll fit. But they try it and it fit perfectly right where it needed to be without violating any of the restrictions. And now you're going and looking for a chair yourself. And as you go, you find this one chair and it's got like metal arms that are kind of like a brushed metal arm. And you're thinking this is going to be really heavy. But when you pick it up, it's not actually heavy. You're able to pick it up and you're kind of surprised. And somebody is there and they help you start carrying it towards the plane. And that's where the dream ends.
Yep.
Awesome.
The one thing I would say is I remember really specifically the armrests being silver metal.
Silver metal. So not just any metal, but they were silver metal.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got a couple things about this dream. One, in most of the dream, a lot of the activity that you're in is with this group. So you're kind of more participating in this dream. There's a little bit that reflects on you, but you're not doing anything unique. There's other people that are doing as much or even more activity than you are in parts of the dream. So it's really about the group more than you specifically, but you're part of the group, which is why you're in the group in the dream. And so this is a church dream because you got church leaders that are with you. So this is talking about a journey. And the church, the people that you've been a part of has been on this journey. And God has taken you into a place where you're discovering something. It's a ministry. It's something spiritual, this plane. It's able to get into the spirit that others have used before you, but it's been a long time since anybody's used it. It's just kind of been sitting there. And it's not really set up for people to be a part of it. It's just kind of blank. It's an empty slate, if you will. And you're not the only group that's discovered that this is something. There's other groups that are also have discovered the same thing and trying to get it ready to be used again. There's some unique pieces, like that the whole thing about the chair where there's all these restrictions. Like there's certain parts of this that have to be specific or else they won't fit, but you're always going to have what you need. And you have a part to play in helping to make room for people to be able to enjoy, to be a part of what God is doing in this. It's not as formal as what you would expect. It's not the normal airplane chairs. It's more kind of the lounge chairs, the more relaxed chairs. So it's not as formal as what you might expect. But one of the pieces that you're bringing to the table is learning how to rest in the redemption that we have. That's why it's the silver armchairs, right? And you're able to just rest your strength, not try to work, because your arms are how you do things. And so when you put your arms down, you're just resting in that redemption. And that's something specific that God has given you. You're not the only one carrying it, but that is something specific that God has given you to add to this thing that your church, your ministry is discovering.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
So, with this, this airplane specifically, do you think that's something to expect? Will I be necessarily seeing that at some point? Do you think it's something that is I know I've heard you talk about airplanes being associated with things of the spirit because they're flying,
right.
And you just mentioned that. But do you think that's something that could represent a specific move of the spirit?
I think so. It's something that's been made to carry people in the spirit. So it doesn't feel like, sometimes planes will represent specific ministries, as in the groups of people. This is not so much about the groups of people because the groups of people are involved. This is more about the structure that can contain it. So it may be a way of doing things in the spirit. It might be, I'm trying to use the word ministry, but I've used the word ministry, so I'm thinking of another way of saying that would be more clear. habits and practices that you put into place that carries things into the spirit. So I'll give you some examples of what that might be. It might be a way to pray for the sick and see them healed, right? It might be prophetic ministry. It may be ministering to the poor. It's all those kinds of things. They're things that we do that can carry the spirit, that people are being involved in. But this is something that hasn't been used for a while.
Yeah.
This is something it's recognized, like people used to do this, but nobody's done this for a while.
Yeah.
And it's being rediscovered, but it's been refitted. It's a lot more comfortable. It's a lot less formal.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So, like, as far as the chairs facing inward, that would be just another thing contributing to the idea of, like, not formal or not
Yes.
not normal for maybe that container as far as what we consider it.
Partially. But then also think about, like, if you're in an airplane and all the planes are and all the seats are looking forward, you're seeing the backs of everybody's heads. But if they're all facing in, you're actually seeing each other. So it's a lot more relational. It's a lot
It was
more
actually
real.
only one side.
Only one side.
Yeah, sorry.
So not both sides. Okay. Well, that clarifies. So you don't want to put too much on that piece. So it's not necessarily about the relational. But yeah, it's just not what you would expect. But that whole thing about being a little bit more comfortable,
Yeah.
a little bit more relaxed and unique. Because
Yeah.
all the chairs were different, you
Right.
said. They weren't all cookie cutter. So everybody's part that they play, it's not that everybody's doing exactly the same thing in the same way. There's unique positions that get to be filled by unique people.
Cool. So one impression that I had, like in that particular part of the dream, was like everyone besides the one person was saying that that chair wouldn't fit in that spot. Is that like, do you have like any examples of what you could think that might mean, even if it's not the one thing? Like,
Yeah, well, there are certain activities in the spirit that have more restrictions, and people don't see how anybody could fit into it. But they're the exact right person, exact right time, or exact right place. They're going to be able to fit into it.
so do you think it's like a person?
It's representing a person that's going to fill the seat. The
Yeah.
seat is representing the authority, their ability to sit in it, their ability to be in it. But then the person hasn't come in yet. It's making room for it.
Got it.
But there's very specific guidelines, and people just aren't going to see how anybody could fulfill that. But there is going to be a definition of what that would look like, a seat that fits exactly into it without violating any of the boundaries.
Got it. Okay, so then having like seen this, like obviously God gave it to me,
Right?
and this isn't like something that I have been thinking about or anything like that. So given like that's one thing that I'm seeing, and then there's the other part at the end where like I'm actually being more active and I know I was mostly alone.
Yeah.
Like what do you think that would mean for like what I was supposed to do with this?
Yeah. So that's saying that you're going to end up playing a part. You don't have to do anything to make that happen. But you were given this for a couple different reasons. One, to be a witness. When it comes to pass, you're like, God said that this was going to happen. There's a possibility that you might share it with the leaders. Maybe. Just depends on your relationship and how open they would be to receiving that, what that would look like. At this point, you don't quite have enough clarity.
Yeah.
Like, what exactly is the plane? Like, it's something that's going into the spirit. If there was a little bit more clarity, if we knew, oh, I knew that this had been used for medical missions in the past, then we could say, oh, okay, this is talking about using healing and outreach. But we don't know that.
Yeah.
We're not quite sure. We know it was adventure. We know it was used in the past, but we're not quite sure specifically what it is.
Right.
There may be other things that God speaks that will point towards this. Somebody may start to discover something and start saying, hey, I'm seeing this. Like, this is something that we used to do, or our denomination used to do, our group used to do. I think that this is coming back. And you could say, you know what? I actually had a dream a while back that we were going to discover something. So it may be confirmation as the time comes.
Okay.
But until then, it's for you to pray.
Okay.
Lord, help us to find this clearing. Help us to find this plane. What's been lost in a previous generation, in a previous time. Help us to discover it so that we can step into what you're doing.
Okay. So then with like the end, I had like a definite like cliffhanger feeling. Just like I was just finding the chair, and like that was something that I was like not expecting to necessarily do. Like I wasn't expecting to find a chair. So like as far as like that bit, is that again something that you think I should just kind of like wait for and that'll become clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because when this comes to pass, you're going to find yourself being a part of it.
Okay.
Maybe you don't see that at first.
Okay. So I'll find myself there rather than that's something that I should like actively seek to do or something.
Exactly. Because in the dream, you don't have somebody that comes up to you and say, well, why aren't you helping look for chairs? Go look for a chair.
Okay.
You just naturally, you're seeing all the stuff going on and then you ended up doing it. So there's nothing in the dream that says that you need to make a decision or do something. It just says what's going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just like a general question then, is like, I guess I'm trying to figure out in the future if I had another dream that was like telling me just to know that that was going to happen. Like this is, you'd call that like prophetic, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a prophetic dream.
What are some like classic indicators of like, that's a prophetic dream versus this is something that either maybe I'm hoping for or like could come to pass? I guess you're talking about like in the context of the dream,
Right. You know,
there being a difference.
sometimes dreams will have like decision moments in a dream. Like I did this and then this happened.
Yeah.
And it seems to say like if this needs to happen for this to happen. So if this doesn't happen, this won't happen. So those are keys. If you see something like that, then you realize like this needs to happen. It may or may not be something that you need to do. But one of the things we want to be careful with is trying to make what God said happen.
Yeah.
If he's given us clarity, so in a dream, if it's saying you need to do something, you find the thing that you need to do and try to obey it. But if there's not that clarity in the dream itself, then you don't want to try to make the dream happen.
Got it.
Yeah. And that's just true with any kind of revelation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's super helpful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your dream.
Of course.
We really appreciate it. All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining us for this episode of the Dreams Guy podcast. My name is John Thomas. We'll see you next time.